What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog, and today we're back in Brawl, playing around Phylath World Sculptor. 6 mana, 5/5 elemental. When it enters, we get a 0/1 plant creature token for each basic land you control. Of course, works well with Brawl because we're mostly playing basics anyway, since you're limited to the number of non-basics, of course. And of course, landfall trigger, any time you play a land under your control, 4+1+ encounters on target plant you control. So hopefully we have a bunch of plant tokens out, and we can kind of abuse some landfall triggers, which there's no shortage of these days in Standard, of course. And yeah, just get these plant tokens really big and just try to swing through with big dudes, and just do some of our other little tricks we got up our sleeve. Alright, so we got the Skyclave Pick-Axe, another way to kind of abuse the landfall triggers and kind of allow us to be aggressive in certain situations. Some removal here, we have Royal Eruption, which obviously has kicker, so even in the late game it can be pretty decent. Any target is pretty nice as well. Thundering Rebuke, the 4 damage to creatures or planeswalkers, is having that flexibility is pretty nice. Kenrith's Transformation draws us a card when it enters, and we get to turn a enchanted creature into a 3/3 elk. So this is great, especially on like your opponent's commander, so they can't just have it go back to their command zone. It just stays on the battlefield as a 3/3 with no abilities. Lotus Cobra here, way to abuse our landfall triggers to kind of ramp us up a little bit, and just a decent body, of course, 2/1. Once Upon a Time is can be a free spell. If it's the first spell you cast, you get to search for a land or a creature. So that's pretty important, especially in the early turns to kind of fix your draws and whatnot. Gives you a little more flexibility out your opening hands and whatnot. Scavenging News, of course, just a good value creature. Tangled Florahedron is either a ramp as a creature or just a land if you need a landfall trigger. Bone Crusher Giant is good, of course. Kazuul's Fury. It's a land, but I also use it as a 3-mana fling. Obviously a little bit expensive, but having that flexibility is pretty reasonable. And, you know, Phylath is a pretty decent sized body in its own. And we can, you know, have those plant tokens get pretty big as well, and we can use those to potentially kill our opponent. Skyclave Geopede, 3/1 trample. Every time a land enters, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So hopefully you get, you know, 2/3 triggers off of this and swing in for a bunch of damage. Soulseer, just good flexible removal here. Bala Ged Recovery, another land that can also be played as a sorcery to get any card from our graveyard back to our hand. So if we're stuck on lands, we can get a land for some reason we need to, you know, like a Fill Passage or something like that, or just another removal spell, kind of whatever we need. It's a pretty nice flexible card. Cultivate, of course, this is kind of a dig for additional lands, ramps us, gets landfall triggers. Kazandu Mammoth, of course, benefits from landfall triggers and is a decent 3/3 creature in itself. Or land, so having that flexibility is not great. Landlord Visionary draws the card, ramps us, and is a decent 2/2 body. Roiling Regrowth, a nice little combat trick here to cycle land at instant speed and search for 2 basic lands to get a couple landfall triggers at instant speed. Scute Swarm, of course, I think you all know what that does by now. Territorial Scythecat, kind of similar to the Geopede, where it's a 2/1 with trample for 3 mana. However, when the land enters, it gets a +1/+1 counter, so it doesn't get the you know, +2/+2 boost. You can kind of go a little bit turbo. It gets a permanent counter on it, so it's kind of more of a low and slow burn. Thrashing Brontodon, just a nice value creature here. Clothis, same thing, and that gives us some additional graveyard interaction with our Scavenging News. Errata, Heart of Kelt, another way to get landfall triggers, and of course works really well in the late game with the activated ability. Gemrazer, of course, just a good card. Migration Path. And Vastwood Surge kind of fill the same function for 4 mana sorcery speed to tutor up 2 basic lands onto the battlefield tap, so multiple landfall triggers is nice. And of course, Migration Path has the upside of you know, cycling it in the early turns if you keep an open hand and for some reason you missed a land drop or whatever the case may be. And Vastwood Surge, of course, has kicker for 8, which, you know, in Brawl you can definitely get to 8 mana, and you know, maybe you have a Scute Swarm or whatever out, and you just put a bunch of tokens on or counters on your token creatures. You know, maybe your plant tokens from Phylath or whatever. We also have Migratory Greathorn, additional ramp, landfall trigger, and decent 3/4 body. Nylea, obviously since we're mostly actually leaning towards green, should be try to get to Devotion. And then she's a 5/6 indestructible creature, which is pretty powerful, and our creature spells are 1 less to cast. We can pay 3 to reveal the top card of our library, and if it's a creature, it goes to our hand. Otherwise, we may put it into our graveyard. So just a nice card value engine here in Gruul colors. Quest Beast, of course, just a good card. Solemn Simulacrum, you know, another way to trigger landfall and some card draw as well. Ashe, of course, works really, really well with most of what we're trying to do already. And so another good fleeing target, the Kazuul's Fury. because this can get obviously pretty darn big. Elder Gargoth, just good value. Return of the Wildspeaker, of course, works really well with all the tokens, Scute Swarm or Phylath, or whatever the case may be. And since we don't really have a bunch of humans in our deck, we can just draw a bunch of cards, especially Ashe. Might be a little bit too much to draw, like 10, 12 cards off of it, but you get the idea. Vivian, of course, just really good value here, making creature tokens and helping us dig for additional creatures. Moraug, just another way to abuse landfall triggers and even all your creatures +1/+0. That's pretty sweet on attack. So obviously, if I want to go wide strategy with all of our tokens, turn the Wildspeaker, anything like that, lots of damage. Ancient Greathorn in here, just nice value with the additional landfall triggers by being able to play lands from our graveyard. Obviously in Brawl we don't get the one. You don't get the one of each of the fetch lands, if you will, the Evolving Wilds and the Fabled Passage. But if you do get those with the Ancient Greathorn out, then that's pretty sweet way to abuse landfall. And of course you get doubles up your landfall triggers as well, so that's pretty awesome. Beanstalk Giant, of course, ramps us and is a really big creature in the late game. Turn Timber Symbiosis, just a nice value here, digging for creatures at sorcery speed, or we can just play it as a land. You can even have it come in untapped if we pay 3 life. Kind of same thing here with Shatterskull Smashing, except it's removal on its sorcery side. And yeah, same thing, we can just pay life to have it come in untapped. And finally, we have Perfos Intervention for some additional removal. Or in the late game, we just have it make a big elemental token with haste and trample and potentially kill our opponent that way, especially since we're making lots of, mana and things like that with Lotus Cobras and landfall triggers and whatnot. We can get a pretty big one, pretty big X creature with this potentially. All right, mana base here: 1 Castle Embereth, another way to kind of pump up our team, our tokens and whatnot. 4 Mountains, 9 Forest, 1 Pathway, of course. Rugged Highlands, Temple of Abandon, give us that fixing. Command Tower, of course. Evolving Wilds and Fabled Passage. So that's a deck. We'll jump into some. All right, against Nissa. Imagine she's pretty strong as a commander. Alright, well, go and lead with the Turn Timber Symbiosis here. No reason to hold that here at this stage of the game. So obviously Clothis should be pretty decent against Nissa, so they don't get that graveyard value. Ooze is nice too, but there's a decent chance to just have removal. Well, they don't do anything, so I think we're actually just going to go with the Geopede. Now they can kill the Ooze if they want, or kill the 3/1. Not sure what they're holding on to here. Beanstalk Giant, getting that ramp on. Well, here's where we can go pretty aggressive. I'll call this now, why not? Swing 9. It's a pretty good turn there. Then we get the incremental value from Clothis as well. Draw a land, of course, we can go for the Gargaroth. Nylea is not bad, though. I think we're still 1 off of Devotion, it looks like. Lucanos, pretty good draw. Go and swing with our 7/5 with Trample. Go and activate this now, get the extra damage in. Alright, opponent down to 7 already, and we kept our Geopede alive thanks to the Skyclave. So yeah, pretty awesome synergy. And yeah, pretty awkward start from our opponent. They didn't really do a whole lot there. And obviously next turn we had a Gargaroth, and that would have turned on our Devotion. And yeah, I don't think our opponent would have been able to come back from that. So sweet. Alright, against Luris. Don't really see that one as a commander very often. This hand seems keepable. Start with the Embereth here since we don't have any mountains or any other turn 1 plays. We got the Cobra. Probably just play the Scute Swarm on curve. Although now we have Clothis, which obviously matches up really well. Well, eventually we need double red for the Moraug, but we can probably just play this pathway as a green source. Although we draw a mountain. Probably worth slowing him down. I'll just play the forest for now. Could cycle a migration path. I'd rather hold it for landfall triggers. And dire tactics. Pretty impressive. Alright, well now we've drawn a couple forests, so we'll just play this pathway as a red source now. And then we'll be all set. Heliod's pretty annoying. But there's still a little ways from Devotion. Could be playing Shatter, but we're gonna go for it. We are gonna go for it. All the triggers here. And attack with the little buggy over here. See if they want to trade. Nope. And Moraug is pretty good for us. And closer to Devotion, which we don't like. Problem with Gruul is your removal is a little bit limited. I'm fine with taking that trade. Make the Prince a 3/3. You got it. Takes away their Devotion. They do get a 2/2 though. Or we just get this Ashe down, and then I'll get our landfall triggers to be pretty insane. And Geopede also benefits from these landfall triggers. So next turn we can probably do some pretty nasty things, assuming they don't wipe our board or anything too crazy. Obviously, they're over there making Griffin tokens. There's probably any number of draws that could give them Devotion for Heliod. Haggard Mauling, that hurts. They do spend all their mana to do it, though. Royal Eruptions, not bad. Let's see. Care about this Charming Prince? We'll just go for Phylath, I guess. No attacks. We'll wait until we get some landfall triggers before we start swinging in with our Geopede. Don't quite have enough tokens to swing in with Scute just yet. So any spell land. We'll definitely be looking to play the land side to get those landfall triggers. So the opponent finds removal yet again. Well, we're going to trade off. There's a lifelink, but it dies. Then give their counter on the token. Well, we can kill both their tokens here and start crashing in. So we have to do X5. I believe we have 7 total. Yep. Is it worth it? Keeps their board clear. Now lets us start swinging in, keep their life total in check. So there could be some things in there that cares about their life total. Alright, so they're virtually tapped out here to play Lurrus. We have Royal Eruption. And we even have this Brontodon here. We can keep their Griffin Airy in check. Alright, so they go down to 3, but then they're just in top deck mode, and yeah, they don't have very good options there. So sweet. Alright, against Atris. Not sure I've seen Atris as a commander before. It's pretty cool. Hand seems okay. Obviously with Fury in open hand, we'll just lead off as a land. Kazuul's Cliffs. It's possible we want to save this Evolving Wilds for some landfall triggers. We do have 3 lands to get to our Scythecat, and then not till turn 5, so it's probably fine to just play it like this. Of course, our opponent's on Demirs, so probably nothing's fine. Everything gets countered, everything dies. So we'll give it a go. That resolved and did not die. So you're saying there's a chance. Got some removal spells here if they do go for a creature. That just does seem like a pretty sweet commander. Well, that can draw cards, so we don't like that. So we're gonna Thundering Rebuke. How do you like that? Evolving Wilds. Going Procket now. We have a Mountain. There we go. It's nice that those are permanent counter, especially on curve. Next turn we have Gargaroth. Just grab a forest probably. So we don't have too much for red. Well, they can have the Wind Robber and the land, but Petty Theft is pretty obnoxious, so we will say no to that. I don't think there's any reason to use an intervention on that, especially now that we know they're running some mutate stuff. And rogues, it looks like. We should have cracked that. Just got a little distracted by thinking about what they might be up to. Playing rogues and mutate with Atris. Atris is nice value, so it's a good commander. Eat to extinction. Well, means they're not playing anything else. And they don't have a way to deal with our Vivian, which is actually represents pretty good value on our own. You have Menace, but you're not attacking. We'll go ahead and play this. So should have done that earlier. I mean, that's good. We do have ways to abuse that, but we'll keep it. If they have a lot of removal, we'll probably need it. So we'll go ahead and keep it. I mean, they seem to be stuck on 4 lands, so I don't know if they really want to, but then 7 damage is a lot as well, especially if they're running low on removal. So yeah, we'll just Vivian here, make a 3/3, kind of go wide a little bit. We'll say reach. If they're running rogues, they might have some flyers. Well, obviously, the Wind Robber is flying. But we do have a Trample, and we have a Regrowth that we can cast at instant speed, but no. Opponent has all the removal, of course. We can play the Wind Robber as well. So we have lots of options here. I guess we attack first. I guess with Regrowth we can just do that. And again we'll choose Reach. And then down to 8 with a Roiling Regrowth in hand and a Phylath out. If they don't have a way to deal with Phylath, then there's a pretty good chance that we can just kill them next turn. I mean, they find a land here and tap out for Atris. That's not really good enough. Okay, so they clear the board to just kind of buy them a little bit of time. We'll just swing 5. Make another 3/3. So we'll keep on the Reach train.
Beauty lies in variation.
And we'll just play the Geopede, I guess. And save the Gemrazer for a way to rebuild potentially if they have some other sweeper effect. Not sure what else they could have. Extinction Event. This is even and this is odd. And we also have the token, which is even. So I'm not sure there's much our opponent can do here. Guess I need to wipe the board and gain life or something. Heartless Act. Okay. Yeah, we'll take that action. And then you just concede. Okay. Opponent had tons of removal in hand. We just kill everything and then pass the turn, but then concede before we can attack. Like, just concede, dude. Alright. Alright, against Ashe. I mean, 2 lands with a Cultivate and a Cobra. It's a bit slow, but I think we can try it with the Temple. Yeah, there's a pathway. Perfect. So probably just looking for lands in this matchup. So we'll lead with Cobra because they're not going to give us anything to kill. Save the pathway so we know for sure which way we want to do it. Okay, so they can punish us for playing spells, basically. Alright, probably want to get this Geopede down. Alright, so we got the Smashing that can be removal, although they don't seem to be running creatures yet. They're missing black. There we go. See if they're desperate for lands. There they are. So that works. Alright, well, Rebuke does 4 and hits Planeswalkers. This does 2. Go and fire that off. Go and play this tapped. Get a landfall trigger on the Geopede. And Confounding Conundrum actually kind of helps our cause in some ways. Well, that's pretty good. Let's go for the Pick-Axe. Let's go for the Cultivate. And we'll go and play this. Sure, Conundrum triggers. Bring So basic forest. And we'll rebuke the 2-3 and just swing into Ashe. So they don't have much going on here. Although we did preserve life total. Might have been worth it just going face, honestly. But Ashe with the minus is pretty annoying, so. Oh, I definitely can't recast it yet. They probably killed the Geopede. Nope. Duress. There goes the Shatterskull Smashing. It's not too critical. So we have 6 lands for Phylath here. Oh, we did. Alright, Scute Swarm. Well, here, if our opponent has a bunch of removal, then we probably just lose because we're just going to be in top deck mode and stuck on 5 lands. That's pretty annoying. I mean, going wide is okay, but the Cure Best of Sea God is just going to be pretty annoying. So let's go for the landfall triggers. And obviously we could play the Phylath now, but they're just going to tap everything down, so I don't think it's worth it. Yeah, I'm not sure we have a way to fight through this at this point. They got a free swing for 8 here. We still can't really play our commander because they can just steal it. Otherwise, they just steal our Scute Swarm, although obviously they don't have good ways to abuse it. I mean, Confounding Conundrum could have worked in our favor, but unfortunately they had the Mind Drain at just the right time. And now they're just probably going to steal our Scute Swarm, and then maybe they have some card draw or start finding some more lands. And they're up to, they have more than 6 lands now, so they can easily abuse that. And Gadwick can just tap any of our creatures down following turns. So yeah, there's not really any way out of this, and our opponent's kind of playing a little slowly. So we will pack it in. There's just no way out of this. Yeah, pretty sweet deck. And obviously they were pretty fortunate with the Mind Drain, and then of course Dimir, they had all the removal. Duress wasn't really consequential. We were able to get rid of the Bloodchief Service since they went for lands. But yeah, the Mind Drain was pretty timely since we had some pretty decent cards in hand. But yeah, the Cure Best of Sea God is just if you don't have a way to deal with it immediately, then it's pretty rough. So overall, you know, it's pretty decent showing from the deck. Phylath is a pretty reasonable commander. Obviously, 6 mana is pretty expensive, especially if you're when you start talking about having to pay your commander tax and having to do 8 mana or 10 mana, things like that. But we have ramp, so definitely if the game does kind of drag on, there's definitely ways to cast this multiple times and try to abuse the ETB triggers. Of course, in Gruul, your removal is a little bit limited. Cinderclasm is a little bit tempting to deal with opposing Scute Swarms, but it's also pretty narrow. You can also consider something like Spikefield Hazard as well, as kind of another way to kind of abuse the landfall triggers potentially if you don't need the 1 damage. But otherwise, yeah, pretty happy with the kind of the configuration. Obviously, the curve is a little awkward, but it kind of works. You look at Stomp is basically a 2 mana spell. You have lots of lands in here as well, or things that can be lands and aren't necessarily 3 mana spells. So not things you necessarily want to cast on 3. Sometimes you want to wait and play Scute Swarm later, like on turn 4 or 5, just to make sure you get that land, at least a landfall trigger off of it. Obviously, you're not playing Roiling Regrowth on 3. You're waiting to have like something out with landfall to actually abuse it, unless you need to get that extra land. Cultivate, Soul Seer, just kind of depends. So, on paper, obviously the curve, we were pretty heavy on the 3 drops, but now that you kind of see a little more in context, the curve tends to make a lot of sense. Yeah, just kind of trying to, there's obviously lots of ways to abuse landfall. And so the idea is just to kind of have just the right mix of landfall payoffs and actual landfall triggers. so you're not too heavily in one way, or the other. And obviously, so the biggest weakness obviously is removal. But I think we have some decent removal in Eruption and Thunder Rebuke, which kind of I think line up decently well in the Brawl format, and Shatterskull Smashing, and I'm a pretty big fan of Purvo's Intervention, especially in a Brawl format. I think just the flexibility on these types of cards are pretty nice. We'd have some kind of sneaky card advantage with Rada and things like Nylea and Simulacrum. So there's that. And of course, Vivian is sort of card advantage with her -2 and even just pumping out beast tokens every turn. So that's pretty sweet. And even Return of the Wildspeaker can be a card draw source if you're just stuck on, maybe one big creature. But yeah, otherwise, if you can kind of go wide, obviously the +3/+3 is how you want to do it, and just kind of kill your opponent instead of just kind of seeing how many Scute Swarms you can make, because that's kind of annoying because it just slows down the arena client, which is pretty annoying for both players. The Pick-Axe, obviously situationally, it does really well, but it definitely, if you want to do like Spikefield Hazard for this, maybe that'd be understandable. Obviously, there's a couple other little tweaks you can make to it, but overall, I feel pretty solid with the list. Visionary is kind of whatever. The ramp can be kind of nice since our commander is, obviously a 6-drop, and we have some other things here at the 5 and 6 mana that we might want to get to maybe a little bit early. But yeah, overall, it's pretty fun commander. Just lots of fun things you can do with it, with the of course the landfall triggers in particular. But there's some nice value here overall. So yeah, and I really do like these dual lands. These are pretty sweet. So all right, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with